Greetings, math fans. All right, so what we're going to do today is talk about slope. Okay, it's a really key word that we use in math a lot, slope. And when you think about slope, think of like a mountain, right? A mountain's got a slope, and how steep is it? Does it take a lot of effort to climb the mountain, so it's really steep, or is it just really easy walking where it's not very steep at all? Or is it a cliff where you're falling off a cliff, or is it like a plateau, right, where you're maybe you hit the top of a mountain and it's nice and flat. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. It's a pretty easy topic today. The next day it just gets a little more complicated because you have to kind of do a calculation of a slope. But this is what I want you guys to learn from today's lesson here. Okay, so there are 4 different graphs I'm going to draw here, and let's see, 1, 2. We'll put one over here, and we'll put one over here. And 4. Okay. So first of all, if the line goes this way, uphill, okay, this is called a positive slope. And I've had, my first year teaching, I had kids say, well, Mr. Curvis, what happens if you're going downhill? Isn't that like, you say it's uphill. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Okay. So this is the deal. Always look left to right. Kind of like when you're climbing or when you're reading a book, right? You always read left to right. So this is the deal. If you're going left to right, you're going uphill. So it's a positive slope. All right? And then, of course, going this way, this is a negative slope. All right, it's the same thing. You're going left to right, and so you're going downhill. That's why it's a negative slope. All right? And then this guy right here, this is called a zero slope. Okay? It's a zero slope because it has, it's like a zero incline, if you want to think of it this way, right? If you have like so many degree incline, a 1 or 2 degree incline, this has zero incline, so that's why it's called a zero slope. All right? And then the last one is this kind of line right here. And this is called an undefined slope. All right, undefined slope. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we actually do a calculation, but it's undefined slope is basically a vertical line, and a zero slope is a horizontal line. All right, the word you are not allowed to use, and I'm going to put this in red, you are not to use the word no slope. Okay, you cannot use that. Okay, if you use it, I'm marking it wrong. All right, you need to know that. You cannot use the word no slope. And because I know some of you guys, what you did is you learned that an undefined slope, you learned that this guy right here was no slope. But I want to put a thought in your brain here, math fans. People get no slope and zero slope. This guy, they get these confused because you use it for this, but if I asked you how many M&Ms in my hand and you said, well, I have 0 M&Ms, isn't it the same thing as saying I have no M&Ms in my hand? So now you're saying, well, wait a second, now isn't no slope really a zero slope? All right, that's why it's not an appropriate word to use. You cannot use no slope because it does have a slope. Okay, it's a zero slope or it's not defined. It's an undefined slope. So it's very important that you guys understand that. You can only use no slope, or you can never use no slope. You can only use undefined slope or zero slope, or positive or negative. All right? Okay, so let's that's actually part of your homework is literally I'm going to give you guys a graph, and you're going to tell me is it a positive or negative, undefined or zero. Okay? So let's actually talk about giving some points on, or if I gave you a graph. So let me give you some points. 2, 3, and 2, negative 1. All right, and then I want you guys, this is part of the homework, is you're going to plot these. Tomorrow we're actually going to use an equation to figure it out, but you're going to plot these points. So it's 2, 3, and 2, negative 1. All right, then you graph the line. And of course, what is this? This is an undefined slope. Okay, so you're going to have two blanks. And actually what's going to happen is it's going to say, is the slope positive, negative, 0, or undefined? And then it's going to say find the slope by counting. Now obviously we're not going to worry about this. This is undefined, and it's the same answer by counting. Okay, so we're not going to worry about that quite yet. Here's the next one. Negative 1, 3 and 2, 3. Okay, so let's plot those points. 2, 3 and negative 1, 3. All right, look at that, man. All right, so that is a 0 slope. Okay, that's pretty easy. All right, so let's talk about the other two kinds of slope. We know it's positive and negative, but let's actually talk about how do you figure out slope. Slope is rise over run. So rise means how much you go up and down, and run means how much you go left and right. All right, if you're going up, it's positive. If you're going down, it's negative. If you're going to the left, if you're going to the right, it's positive. Let's just keep it consistent. And if you're going to the left, it's negative. Okay? And obviously, if you go two negatives, make sure it's a positive, right? If one of them is negative, then it's negative. So let's start off with a problem here. And I'm going to have 2, 3 and negative 1, 1. Okay, so let's graph it. 2, 3. It's right there. And negative 1, 1 is right here. So these are your points, and I can sketch a line if I want through them. But the whole thing I'm trying to do here is I want to write rise over run. So I'm going to go from this point right here to this point right here. And do you guys agree that I am going to rise 1, 2 units? So slope equals rise 2, and I'm going to run 1, 2, 3 to here. So I'm going to run 3. My slope is 2/3. It's positive, and you knew that because it was going uphill left to right, but now it's positive 2/3. Okay? It's pretty easy to figure that out. Now, my question to you, math fans, is instead of going I went from point A to point B. Do you guys agree I went up 2 and over 3? What happens if I go from B to A? How does that change it? Does that make it negative 2/3? Well, let's check it out. Okay, I'll do this in a different color just so you can kind of see it here. I'll do this in a blue. So I'm going to go from B to A. So I'm going to go, again, rise over run. So I'm going to go down 2. So slope equals negative 2. And to the left 3. 1, 2, 3. Ah, look at that. A negative over negative is a positive. So my point is, it doesn't matter which point you go from and which point you go to, it's going to be the same thing. Because if you think about it, that line, this line right here, math fans, right? That is a positive slope no matter what. It doesn't matter the direction you're going. It literally matters what the line looks like. It's a positive slope, so it's going to be positive and positive no matter which point you go from or to. Okay? It's very important. But it's really pretty easy to do this. So let's try another problem. Negative 3, 1 and 2, negative 4. So let's graph this. Negative 3, 1 is here, and 2, negative 4 is here. So even before, that's not the straightest line in the world, even before I attempt this problem, math fans, I want you to just recognize that it's negative. Okay, because that's just going to help you if you make a mistake with a sign. So it's negative. That means I go, let's count. So it doesn't matter which point I go from. Let's go from this, let's go from point A to point B. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you guys agree with it? This is going down 5. So isn't that negative 5? So my slope is rise. So I'm going down 5, and then I'm going to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, very interesting. So I'm going positive 5. And math fans, you always reduce your fractions. Okay, so obviously negative 5 over 5 is negative 1. And that's your answer to that problem. All right, but always reduce your fractions. Very, very important. Okay, so let's try another one here. 2 comma negative 3 and 0 comma negative 1. Okay, so let's graph it. And it's going to be 2, negative 3, and 0, negative 1. So here's your line. All right, and if I come, well, first of all, again, I know it's negative. So I'm going to go from this point, I'm going to go down 1, 2. So slope is negative 2, and then to the right 1, 2. Oh, cool. So my slope is also negative 1 here. Okay, let's do a few more. The point is 1 comma 4, and the other point is 2 comma negative 2. Okay, so let's graph it real quickly. 1 comma 4 and 2 comma negative 2. All right, well, that's an interesting graph here. Okay, and well, let's figure it out here. Okay, so again, it's rise over run. So which one do you want to go from? Let's actually go from this one to this one. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I rise 6 in the positive direction, and aren't I going backwards 1? So I'm going backwards 1. So negative, right? And you know this is a negative slope because you see it's going downhill. So my slope is negative 6. Right, pretty easy. It's just rise over run, and just counting. Make sure you're careful with whether it's negative or positive. Make sure. Let's talk about reducing fractions a little bit. Right, if I get 3 over 12, tell me my slope is 1/4. Okay, if I get negative 2 over negative 8, it's positive 1/4. Okay, make sure don't you leave it as a double negative. Okay, and just recognizing it, I know we did one of these already, but if you're given, let's say 2 comma 3 and 2 comma negative 1, so 2 comma 3 and 2 comma negative 1, I mean, right away, man, you could see that this is, it's undefined. Now let's just say you did it by counting, which is okay. What you would do is, let's go from point A to point B. So you're going to go, it's rise over run. So you guys agree to go from here, you're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to go up 4, and how many are you going to run? Well, none, is 0, right? And if you do this in your calculator, 4 over 0. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow, but 4 over 0 is an error. Please don't tell me that the slope is an error. You're going to tell me it's undefined. Now you can just see that just because this line is, it's a vertical line. Okay, so it's an undefined slope. And it's the same thing. Let's do one with zero slope. So 5 comma 2 and negative 1 comma 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 comma 2 and negative 1 comma 2. So there's your line. All right, and if I want to go from point A to point B, how many am I rising? 0. How many am I running? Well, again, I'm going from point A. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going 6 in that direction. So my slope is 0. Please do not ever leave it as 0 over 6 or 6 over 0. Okay, that is actually not reducing it. You need to tell me 6 over 0 is undefined and 0 over 6 is 0. All right, and always reduce your fractions. So that's it, math fans. That's all you have to do is you got to tell me, is it positive, negative, 0, undefined, and graph some points and tell me actually what the slope is by counting rise over run. That's huge. Okay? That's it, math fans. Have a great day. Adios. Goodbye.